So, the spoilers are out for My Hero Academia Manga Chapter 423, and this is the final stretch, the climax for this entire series, the defeat of the big bad. Yeah, a lot happens in the chapters, and we're going to be talking about it in this video. So, let's dive right into it. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Man Drew. I'm here to cover the spoilers for My Hero Academia Manga Chapter 423, titled One for All versus All for One. And with the title of the chapter being that, you can very much tell that this is the climax, the finish line for the story of My Hero Academia. We do not have that much time left before the series ends, and this chapter, from what we see with the leaks and spoilers, pretty much confirms that idea wholeheartedly. So let's talk about what's going to be going down in this chapter and really exploring why this is going to be the end of My Hero Academia. And to start off, the chapter begins with All For One saying that he found it weird that the regeneration wasn't healing his body. In addition to that, each hero's hostility came together to confuse Danger Sense and quote-unquote hide Deku's presence. This shows that his body is exhausted and his mental state has never been worse due to Yoichi's quote, death. Deku remembers All Might saying that One for All would make a weak body explode and tells All For One that he directly received the power cultivated by the 9 users. All For One's body begins to crumble, and some heroes think the fight is over, but All For One uses various quirks to keep himself together. He says that he hasn't achieved anything yet, and that he can't die, because the Demon Lord is absolute, and he has to fulfill his dream. He says he just has to start all over again, like he did with Shigaraki. In other words, he just needs to transfer the All For One quirk to Midoriya or some other hero and take over their body. He then approaches Deku, but Kurogiri moves. Mike shouts, "Shirokumo!" and he replies, "Shota, Yamada, I'm sorry, but I have to go. I need to protect Tomoe Shigaraki." He opens a portal between Deku and All For One, and Mike cries, saying that Shirokumo always reaches out to those who need help. So, the first part of the leaks and the spoilers are really building up to the idea that this is the final clash between All For One and One For All. All For One and Izuku Midoriya Deku. And we're getting to see that there's a little bit explanation for how in this moment All For One's body is crumbling, breaking down, just most likely due all to the wear and tear that the body has gone through, but also just really showing that the mental state may be affecting the body as well, but just really showing that All For One is in a desperate state. He thinks that he's about to lose and he's trying to think of ways to get out of it. And because we also have Kurogiri on the background, Kurogiri also begins to act out. So we're really showing everything coming together that's been built up to this final moment, really coming to clash in this moment. And that All For One is going to try and stay in the game as long as possible, but from what we see with the next part of the leaks, that is not going to be the case. So with the next part of the list, we have Shirokumo calling out, "All For One, give Shigaraki back. His friends are waiting for him." Kurogiri starts to disappear, but at the last second, Bakugo appears and propels Deku with his explosion. Mike says that he should be in the hospital, but he flew there with his quirk. Bakugo says that Shoto made an ice ramp for him to get up there. "Be careful, or else I'll end up surpassing you, Izuku." Deku says that he'll never forgive All For One, but that he's not an incomprehensible monster or a demon lord. Deep down, he's just a very lonely man. We then see All For One talking to the flame that represents Yoichi. He says that Midoriya's last punch transferred the last embers of One For All, that is, the last fragments of Yoichi, the quirk itself. All For One says that he doesn't care about that. He just wants to see Yoichi's face. Yoichi says that he failed to take his brother in the right direction, but now Midoriya is allowing the Shigaraki brothers to finally rest. All For One starts shouting, saying that he won't allow it, that he loves Yoichi and needs him by his side. Yoichi says that it's time for All For One to pay for the crime of using so many people and they're not alone in there. Next, we see all of the One For All users plus Shigaraki Tomura coming out of the shadows with a full page of Deku and Tomura punching All For One's vestige. And this is pretty much the end of All For One, and from what we're getting from the leaks, we're really more or less characterizing All For One to be more than just the monster or the big bad or someone evil, but someone that is doing a whole bunch of bad things that are very much unforgivable, but he is still very much human and has humanistic goals and ideals that he was reaching for, but used them in a twisted way. And we're finally getting the closure of All For One and One For All, both the quirks and the users in this moment, as well as the definitive defeat of All For One. And among defeats, I'll probably go into this a little bit more into the review proper, but I think that this is a fair amount of setup and a fair ending for All For One, and as well as what's going to be happening to Tomura Shigaraki, as we're going to see in the last part of the tech spoilers, and overall is going to potentially make this a really good chapter. But now we're getting towards the last part and the final part of the tech spoilers and leaks, where the vestiges begin to disappear and Deku and Tomura's hands touch. Tomura says that he thought he had completely been swallowed by All For One this time, but Nana's vestige connected with him and prevented him from disappearing. He then says, Kurogiri, and we see the last bits of him. He says that even though he briefly got his body back, he didn't manage to destroy anything. Midoriya was right. Deep down inside, he was just a crying boy, and that's why he couldn't destroy Deku's hands. Deku says that he continued to fight because he couldn't forgive what Shigaraki had done, but also because he wanted him to stop. He wanted the sadness to be over. Izuku Midoriya, if Spinner is still alive, tell him this. Tomura Shigaraki fought to destroy until the very end. Deku says that he managed to destroy what he really needed to. The last page goes back to the real world and reveals that Shigaraki's body has been completely destroyed and turned into dust. The rain has finally stopped and the sun is shining. End of chapter. So, that's pretty much it. This is the final clash, not only between All For One and One For All, but between Tomura Shigaraki and Izuku Midoriya. And I'll give my final thoughts on the actual chapter proper when the actual translations are out in a proper fashion around Friday. But overall, I think this is going to be a very enjoyable chapter and fits the themes of My Hero Academia that has been setting up throughout the entire story, and that this is probably the only way this story was going to end, with the death and the end of both All For One and Tomura Shigaraki, but done in a fashion where it's not going to be just Deku just delivering a final and fatal blow. And there's a lot more that I really want to talk about, but that's all I have for the spoilers for right now. And let me ask you this, what did you think of the chapter spoilers and leaks? Did you like them? Did you dislike them? And what was your favorite part? Personally, I think it's the ending, where we finally get to see Deku as well as Tomura finally take out All For One together. But hey, leave your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!